Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, there's a question about labor migration and Kenyan jobs. It is quite instructive. I watched the morning interview or vetting whereby Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi talked about the 480 billion shillings that are remitted from overseas, 350 to 480 billion shillings. Actually, the diaspora remits more money to Kenya. It's our chief foreign exchange earner than even coffee, tea, and others. And we'd like to grow this, but need to be done in a very, very organized place. And so it is important for us to take advantage of this. There is no system as there is in Philippines, for example, whereby the government goes out to teach people how to look for jobs overseas and also train them and give them opportunities to find jobs. So if I am confirmed, I'm going to set up a unit in the ministry to teach Kenyans and also guide Kenyans on how to secure jobs overseas. How do you qualify for a job overseas? How do you become competitive? Because Kenyans are very bright. Kenyans are very well educated, they are very good, they can get jobs and they can remit money, but they have not been given an opportunity and shown. I'm also going to ask our embassies to be telling us, so we can tell Kenyans and publish widely, of opportunities that Kenyans can be able to look at and be able to go into the private sector, but also more so into the United Nations and other international bodies, so that Kenyans are also over there. One of the things that we'd like to do is also, we'd like to get our Kenyans overseas to save, because they're remitting a lot of money. Our president has been talking about Kenyan saving. We'd like to also get our Kenyans overseas to also save. Let them save here so that we can be able to borrow that money that is saved here or use that money. We've been talking about an infrastructure bond for years. We'd like to get that infrastructure bond realized so that Kenyans overseas can say we build that highway with our money from overseas. We also want to set up a network so that when you send your money here, you know the money is being used for the right use as a member of the diaspora. The second question was about the pending bills by Mheshimiwa Mule, Mr. Chairman, through you. And I was also surprised to see in the news about 2.8 billion, but what I had on my records was 1.6 billion from the control of budget. And we have a plan of how this money, and it was very clear how the money will be paid. It was very clear to the control of budget how the pending bills were accumulated. Some of them were accumulated because we had very many development projects. If you have a lot of development projects, others will carry over into new financial years. When some of them carry over to new financial years, they become pending bills, and they are listed even though some of them are ongoing. There are others whereby we had talked to the control of budget that we had said as a government I would not be able to pay them because they are white elephants. There are some things that were listed where a school was built, but you go to the ground, there's no school built. If I paid that pending bill, then I would be arrested and locked up because that is corruption. So that is how some of them have accumulated. There are others which really are real. We have poor exchequer, we're able to correct, and it's a challenge. We're dealing with the first 10 years of devolution. It was about balancing everything, getting everything going, but by the end, I'm very confident that I ran a very good government that was recognized, that had a lot of success in many, many areas, that was able to be an epitome or an example to many other counties. Mheshimiwa, through you, Mr. Chairman, talked about victimization of Kenyans through the cartels, and it is true. I have some tricks up my sleeve, and I don't want to speak about them publicly right now because you know these cartels will work on them. But I can assure you, within a few weeks, I'm dealing with these cartels, because I've been made to understand that some of them are even owned by government officials. And they're going to do everything because they're making tons and tons of money out of our people. And some of the things that we want to do is that it's a clear recording. If you're going to send our kids overseas for work, you need to have a record of who you are sending. You need clearance by the foreign ministry, not only by the labor ministry. And when they arrive in that other country, we'd like to get within 2 weeks to know which home, their domicile, and where they are working. If we don't get that list, then that organization will not be allowed to send any other person to that country ever again until that is met. Furthermore, it is the right of every Kenyan to bear their own passport upon themselves. And we are going to tell the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that the Kenyan passport belongs to the Kenyan. And you only surrender your passport if you're getting a visa and others. You cannot surrender your passport because you're working. And if they can't agree for Kenyans to keep their passports among themselves, let's go to other countries. We don't have to go there and be slaves because they take our passports and we can't even travel anywhere. So we are going to ensure some of these things are not taken for granted. It's all about the government putting down its foot and saying, we are friendly nations, let's treat our people with respect. Mr. Chairman, the question about the Kenyan visas, and this goes hand in hand with the strength of the Kenyan passport. If you go to Google, you'll find that our Kenyan passport is number 75 in terms of the countries, in terms of its strength. This is because we are not really, our passport is not very strong. We can't go to many countries without visas. One of the things that I want to do, if I'm confirmed and sworn in, is to ensure that we get bilateral agreements with many countries signed, so that we can have reciprocal, so that Kenyans do not need a visa to go to some countries. Most of the time, these countries put what in Swahili we call vikwazos, because they believe that Kenyans will be going there, misbehaving and not coming back. But with a plan of President Ruto to grow the economy from the bottom up, Kenyans will not have a reason to flee their country. There will be opportunities for people to go, trade, and come back home. The other thing is also to look at some of the agreements that are sitting in Parliament that we're going to bring. For example, there's an MOU between the United States and the Kenyan government to quicken how Kenyans get visas to the United States, but it has sat in Parliament for a while. I'm going to fast track it so that it is approved, and it is so we can sign some of these agreements and many treaties that will strengthen our passport. I also would like to, if confirmed, is to introduce what is called a service passport for senior public government officials, so that there is a diplomatic passport, there's a regular passport, and also a service passport. This is done by many countries, so that our senior government officials have a service passport that enables them to get visas in a faster way to be able to go and carry out their duties, which may not per se be diplomatic, but they're able to carry out their duties. It will put less pressure on the diplomatic passport, and also it will ensure that our passport gets a better ranking at the end, so that the mamambogas and others can also be able to go to many countries without having to go for a visa. The Mheshimiwa, through you, Mr. Chairman, Dawood asked about scholarships. Very, very important. And this is because of lack of follow-up. I've noticed that there are very, very many treaties, agreements, follow-up of meetings that have really not taken root. One of the things that I plan to do, if I'm confirmed and sworn in, is to ensure that there is a person sitting in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with direct linkages to every other ministry. Because we want to go trade, but we're also looking at these specific scholarships to other places. We want to be able to announce these scholarships to the public. Si mambo ya kujuana. I have a good friend of mine, if I can use him an example, called Professor Frederick Iraki. Grew up very poor, was teaching somewhere in Western Kenya. He saw an advert in the newspapers, I think it was Taifa Leo, and he was able to apply to the foreign ministry for a scholarship on merit without knowing anybody. He got a scholarship. He's now a full professor. Went overseas, studied, full professor. Hakujua mtu. So we want to create a system whereby children of the poor, when we say the child of the poor will be able to sit at the same table with the child of the rich, so that you don't have to know anybody for you to be able to get these scholarships. And we'll publish them. And also I'll be on my tours overseas. I'd like to be accompanied by members of parliament, because I have seen when I was working in government, whenever there's a team that comes from the United States, from England and other countries, they bring their members of parliament, they bring their members of Congress to accompany the minister. I'd like to get that habit, because you understand and you can be able to lobby for me and lobby for the country of Kenya, more scholarships and more opportunities for Kenyans. It is not just a job of executive. This is a shared, I want to have work together with Parliament because it is about Kenya. Kenya is not just about the Foreign Office. It's about all of us as leaders being able to support our people here in Kenya. In terms of balance of trade, yes, a problem because majority of our products don't have value addition. So we are selling our products raw. So we find that we are importing finished products. We actually sent our products overseas and they are imported to Kenya with value addition. The Kenya Kwanza government is all about value addition. We like to add value to our products so that more money can remain in the pockets of wananchi, and this will ensure that our balance of trade is balanced. In terms of miraa, we look at how do we package our miraa, but it's not about package, it's how do you market our miraa overseas, and how do you get smooth transition, because that is a product so that the people of Tigani, as you put it, can also have more money in the pocket. So this is a critical part of the plan of Kenya Kwanza. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We agreed no lifting of hands. Yes. Naisula, Gikaria, Raso, Posing, Emase.
Thank you, Chair. To Honorable Mutua, many things...
Actually, there are only two of you left after Emase, Murugara, and Mukami. You can take those 6.
All right, thank you, Chair. To Honorable Mutua, many think that you have zero international experience. What are your views on self-determination in relation to this nomination? Is self-determination real or a mirage? And where the experience actually matters? And the second question, in your view, what new roles will the State Department of Diaspora Affairs do that the existing government structures don't do or will not do, remembering that in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, it was actually to be a ministry? What issues do you think will need to be handled under the Diaspora Affairs docket? Thank you.
Next.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe, Chair, at some point in Parliament, at some time, I think you'll need to give a ruling as to whether this aspect of the domestic workers out of the country, whether it is a foreign affair matter or it's a labor, or sometimes we leave it to labor and maybe it is foreign, or it's the two of them. And I think your direction will really give us some answers to this.
It is cross-cutting. They live here exactly under labor.
Correct.
They're out there under foreign.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's when they are addressing that, then it's a cross-cutting issue. Maybe the two ministries need.
The government has collective responsibility, and the minister, if approved, may wish to work very closely with labor to ensure that they synchronize the process and continue monitoring and managing our Kenyans out there.
Thank you, Speaker. And I also want to thank the nominee. You know, he